first time I've ever shared my family's experiences with a group of people other than people that know me, because I've always kept everything to myself. But it was so funny because before, and I'm not very good for speaking. And I'm not very talkative. So that's why I never really do gratitudes. I'm so thankful for everything, but it's hard for me to get in front of people. So thank you for the opportunity. But it was so funny because a day before James asked me, I was at the ocean and I was praying, and Grammy came through and she said, when he asks you, say yes. And I thought, what's that? And then James asked, I said, oh, my first response was said, well, let's do it next month. Well, today's Grammy's graduation, and she graduated January 23rd, 1978. So to me, it's just a very special day because I could feel my grandmother with me. But I want to share some experiences. I want to share both my grandmother's life and my mother's life, who are both ordained spiritualist ministers. But at the time, people didn't accept it. They thought it was spooks, and it was just, or you were a witch, or you were that. It was very hard. And that's one of the reasons why I never used my gifts publicly when I was growing up, because of the fact I didn't want to have a label on me. So that's why I went to school. And I still keep on going to school. But I wanted to have an article on my grandmother, and I wanted to just read a couple of things, but I don't know if you can see this or not. This was on the Sunday Herald Advertiser, Boston, November 18th, 1973. And it has, you can't see it too well, but it has President Kennedy on there. But this is what, and I'll just read a couple of things about Grammy. But it said, well, basically called her a housewife. Grammy was far from a housewife. But it said that indeed this is, well, let's see, how does it, let's see. Excuse me. Miss Mathias has done so well with skepticism. After all, the only information she requires is a person's name and date of birth. From these, according to this Maine native, she is able to concentrate on the individual and relate her impressions. Now, indeed, this has been true of such well-known psychics and psychic researchers as Arthur Ford and Dean Frederick Edwards, former president of the American Psychic Research Society, and many New Englanders. Arthur Ford heard about Miss Mathias, and when she was only 14, and Arthur Ford went to Bangor, Maine. I just wanted to read a few things, which I probably do better without reading it, but Arthur Ford went to Bangor, Maine, and researched Grammy and tested her for her psychic abilities when she was 14. And when Grammy was a little girl, she saw a man hanging in the barn, and that man had hung himself many years before. And after that, Grammy had been very intuitive, and it just built and built and built. But through the years, Grammy, she was born in 1906, so she was in the forefront of the spiritualists, and she was ordained with the NSAC, and she met many famous people when they came here. And I remember as a little girl at her psychic developments, the circles that they used to have downstairs in the house. And in the very beginning, there weren't many people, and I would help them, put them in the chairs and sit them around, and they would have circles. And as it got more and more, we couldn't do a circle anymore because there were so many people who would come in. And what she would do is we'd have the developments, and it was very interesting. People would come through, and very accurate, very, very accurate readings. But what she used to do is table tipping. And you don't need to have your hands on the table to tip it. And I remember seeing the tables, downstairs going up and down, and not too far off the floor. And then sometimes they would. And I remember when I was all by myself, Grammy used to say to me, you'll be able to do it all by yourself, but you don't need to touch it. Do it. Just make it go up and down. And I remember making the table go all the way up and smashing right down. But some things, when you're a child, maybe a little bit scary because you don't understand it, and your friends can't do that, or your friends don't understand it. And when you tell someone about it, they think you're a Lulu. So that's when you learn to zip it up, as Mom would say. But through the development circles, we met many people, and Grammy was on radio and TV, and so was my mom, but that was in the 70s. They're both spiritualist ministers, but Mom did astrology. And I remember Isabel Hickey coming over the house, and I don't remember them as far as having conversations because I was just a child. But the famous people that we'd read about, they were downstairs, which is crazy, you know? And Max Freedom Long with the Huna, I found letters downstairs that he had written to Mom. He was very fond of her, and I guess there's quite a bit of an age difference. But Mom went to Hawaii. We both did and studied in the jungles. That was years ago. But there's so many near-death experiences that my mother had. And after, being brought up, my grandmother brought me up. And the reason why was because when my sister passed away, it was very difficult for Mom. I don't know. And they didn't talk about it, but I didn't even know I had a sister. And I was probably about maybe 4 or 5 years old. And I started telling them I was playing with my sister. And I don't tell many people this because they think you're crazy. And I'm talking just like I'm talking to you. And we had, oh my goodness, we had the best of time. And she taught me how to do math on my watch. And she was right there when I was in school. She would help me with different things, not anything too intellectual, but because of what I was taught and because I learned, I skipped grades in school. And because she was always with me. And when I would take a test in school, I skipped the 10th grade. I mean, I skipped and skipped and skipped because I had my friends with me. So whenever I would take a test, if I wasn't sure, I would know which one to pick. I'll never forget though, when Mom came home one night and she said, to my grandmother, I hear she's playing with her sister. And I never heard them fight. I mean, really fight. And Mom said, what did you tell her that for? And then when they found out, I told her her name, what she was going to be named, what she looked like, which wasn't like me. It was dark hair and dark eyes like Mom. And long and behold, Mom said, I knew it. And then after that, more things happened. And for my development, to me, spiritual wasn't a religion. It was just a way of life. And I was always connected. I just could feel it. But you just don't know how to put it into words. But I was brought up Catholic and Protestant. And then Mom, first summer, went to a Buddhist temple. And I've gone all over the world, more than 40 countries doing charity work with the eye care. And I've also veered off a lot of different places for the spiritual aspect of it. And some things I can't repeat. But with Mom, though, I remember when she told the story. And she's told it so many times. I remember hearing about it. My eyes roll up in my head. I never thought they'd come back down. And now I miss her not saying stories. But when she was a young child, she was overcome by carbon monoxide in Bangor, Maine. And her mother came in and tucked the girls in, and both her sisters were nice and toasty and warm. And I remember hearing the story. She touched Mom, and she was ice cold. And she opened up the windows and put snow on Mom's face and all over her body. And this is what Mom told me. And she said that at that moment in time, she could just feel this peace. And she saw this ladder going up with cherubs and the music of the spheres, beautiful violin music. And she just said she was floating up, 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 up. And then she could hear Grammy saying, don't leave me, come back. And Mom kept floating. And then she heard Grammy, and she, just like that, went right back in her body. And the funny thing after that was that right after she had that experience, Mom no longer suffered from mastoid abscesses. As she used to be in severe pain and sickly, never another day. And she began studying the violin and became a very good violin player. And she was in the symphony, 100 years ago. Anyway. And then when Mom was a teenager, when she moved to Boston, Grammy, that's the house they have here now, or I have, she almost drowned. She had gone with friends and they swam out to the dock. And then Mom forgot something. And I can't remember what she forgot, but I should remember after other times I've heard the stories. But she went back. And then when she swam back to the dock, she started getting out of breath. And I'll never forget this because this stuck with me, and it always has. This story, that she went down for the third time. And when she did, it was this inner peace. And then she saw her life flashing in front of her. 14, 13, it was just plates that she would see in front of her. And she said, and I'll never forget this, she said, when I was just in grade school and the girl in front of me, and this was years ago when they had the old inkwells, she said she had these beautiful long blonde braids. So I dipped them in the inkwell. And she said, I didn't think anyone would ever see me. No one knew. And she said, but it's written, it's recorded. And mom used to say to me, whatever you do, know it's recorded. So even though I may not see you and no one may see you, do the right thing. Because if you don't, it's recorded. God sees everything. And I think that's what spiritualism, as far as in month near death experiences, is it teaches you to try to do the right thing. Now, it's hard to do the right thing every day. Sometimes that spiritual bank book has to take a deduction. But if you live life, and this mom always instilled in me, is trying to be even keel and humble, because there's always someone who knows more and has more. And one thing she always instilled in me, she said, at the end of the day, Mary, all our ashes are going to look the same. It doesn't matter whether you're big or small, male, female, white, black, purple, pink. We're all the same. And remember, we're all God's children. So at the end of the day, treat everybody the same, because we all are the same. And I remember, you live that, but you see people doing other things that aren't like that. And you go back to saying, no, mom was right. And then 10 years ago, she had another near-death experience. And when she went in for her valve replacement, actually she did die on the table. They cut an old bypass vessel that she'd had previous, and they gave the wrong blood. So it should have taken a few, maybe an hour or two. She was in surgery for 7. And when she came out, she was on life support. And I mean, it just, I shut off. And this was a long time ago, 10 years ago. I shut off and I said, no. And I got back to my spiritualist roots, and I just got back and I said, no, I can't live in this moment of everyone telling me she's going to die, that she's going to be a vegetable, and we're going to pull her out of life support. And I said, no, she's still in there. So I could feel it. And then my guides came to me, and it's like they all came to me, and even hers. And they said, your mother's going to be here at least 3 more years. Just stick to your guns, and this is what's going to happen day by day. And I can't tell you how thankful I was to have this connection to spirit, because I was barely making it through. I stayed in the ICU with her day after day, 2 weeks straight. And I would go downstairs, get some coffee and Au Pond, and come back. And I remember telling Mom, I'm going down to get some pizza because I can't afford anything else. It's so expensive here. And I kept telling that. And it was so funny because I had this green scarf that I'd always wear, just I think as a security blanket. And when Mom finally came out of her, she was taken off life support, and she finally came out of the coma. And then she was taken off life support. It took her a month. And she was vegetable. She was headed on a ventilator and everything. I mean, she didn't, but I knew she was going to be okay. And she couldn't really open up her eyes, but she'd look like all over the place. I said, Mom, I know you can hear you. I know you can hear me. And every cell in your body is filled with a Christ light, because that's what Mom used to say to me. And whatever she told me, I put it right back to her. And I said, and every cell in your body is functioning in perfect working order, and you're going to be fine. You're going to be fine. And everybody else said, no, no, no. Even our best friends. I mean, one of my best friends said to me, said, you got to face it. Your mother's dying. And I won't repeat what I said to her. But anyway, I showed Mom that calendar, and I said, in 2 months from now, Grammy says you're going to be fine. In 2 months, almost to the day, she wasn't fine, mind you, but she came back home. And I liquidated everything I had. And I'm not, I just, my home that I had, everything I had. And I got Mom private care, plus her own doctors. And I said, Mom's in there, and I know she's going to be fine. And if you have the resources to do it, why not give it all away for something good? And I did. And we had 10 more years together. And within 6 months, she was driving, and she was fine. You'd think nothing happened to her. And I said to Mom, where do you want to go in this world? I'll make it possible for you to go. And we went to France. And I didn't think we were going to be able to do it because it was so expensive. But God worked it out. The universe worked it out. And we had coach tickets And I said, we don't need to sit together. We got to Delta, and she said, well, we don't have any more coach seats. I said, we don't even have to be close to each other. I'll never forget, they gave us 5A and 5B. We were in first class or business class. And I said, Mom, see, God is so good. And this was probably about 2 years after, when she was feeling really good. So spirit is so good by tapping into the universe. Unfortunately, through the sands of time, I think we've all gone through this spiritual amnesia. But tapping into spirit and being connected 100% and striving for that. It may not feel 100% of the day, but we all are. We're all spiritual beings. And Mom always used to say to me, Mary, these are our spacesuits. We came for this experience to learn. It's a schoolhouse, but we need the experiences to get through these lessons, to get back home. And don't think it's going to be easy. You're going to go through one speed bump after another speed bump, and every speed bump you go over, it's just going to be higher. But you need to accomplish these lessons, because when you pass away, you're going to the same level. You're not going to be any smarter or any dumber. You're going to go to the same level. And then you're going to advance from there. It's not that when you pass away, all of a sudden you have this epiphany that you're a rocket scientist. No, you just have a greater understanding of where you're at. And Mom has come through so many times after her passing, and she passed on April 23rd, 2019. And in my journal, I put, this is the day I've died and the day I've shut off. And before she passed away, the night before she did actually, she grabbed my hand and she said, thank you for all you've done for me, and thank you for all you're doing. And she said, now, Mary, it's time to go use your gifts that God gave you. Don't waste them. Don't waste them. And that's why I decided to do what I'm doing and starting to do the spiritualist. I mean, I went through all the education and everything else before, because when I lived in Georgia, I didn't have anything else to do. And it sounds terrible, but I wanted to be spiritual, but I needed that connection, but I never really did anything. But now I am. And I'm giving messages, online here, and it's just a start. But again, for all of us, though, we're all connected 24/7. We just have to feel it. And that energy that we have, it's all the same energy. That's the source is the source. It's not that one's more powerful than the other. We're just messengers. And through this life, if we can help as many people as we possibly can, and it doesn't have, they don't even know we have to help them. Do it anonymously. But I think that's one of our God-given gifts, that we can to help and make decisions and help others out of a place of love. And that's what my mom always taught me. And I tried to do it, maybe not all the time, but I tried to do it. And I'm so thankful that you've asked me, James, to speak here, because I was so concerned about sharing everything. And I could just hear, I just heard Grammy saying, she said, don't forget to tell him about Hans Holzer. He used to be here all the time, all the psychic, but Hans Holzer was a good friend of Mom's, or Grammy's. I call her Mom too. They're all Mom. But yes, so there's just so much out there. The force is there. The energy is there, but we just have to tap into it. And we all have the ability of it, no matter where we are, because each and every one of us here has gone through that dark, dark night, and the dark soul of the night. We've all gone through it. And it gets, when we get out of that and we see the light at the end of the tunnel, I know many times I felt it was a train. And when Mom passed, it was a train, time and time again. But now I can see that everything's opening up. And for all of us, though, we're all on that same journey together. We're just not maybe taking the same path, but at the end, we're going to end up the same place. Because remember, all the roads lead to Rome. God bless you all. And I pray the highest spiritual development for everybody. God bless you all.